Tomas, how are you? Michael Lish. For those who don't know what we do, we're Community Skis. You can always reach us at communityskis.com. What we do is when you submit your form, we really kind of dive into our initial foray into your ski design based on the information you've given us. Tomas, you've got a pretty interesting set of skis. Obviously, you're on a groomer's park setting. You're running trees, open bowls, shooting couloirs, steep technical terrain, powder, crud, powder chop, ice, and cliffs. It's a lot of different terrain, but it's really actually not that hard to create a ski that really performs well over that broad base of type of kind of where you want that ski to perform. First of all, we want to kind of back you off to how much you weigh and how you ski. Back in the day, I used to race, and you're about 151, 170 pounds. How you ski has a lot to do with how we design the ski. If you know how to force and drive that ski, then we know how then we know from a race background, you know how to get forward shin pressure and drive the actual flex pattern and side cut into the carve that you're looking for. In terms of your weight, that's how much force is going to be applied. In regards to the speed at which you ski, which has a lot to do with the terrain you're on, that also is going to kind of compound with the amount of weight you have, which is that driving force which creates the flex. So right away we know what we're looking at in regards to overall stiffness and flex pattern. Now, pattern of flex is different than overall stiffness. We're looking at what is the correct pattern for the type of terrain that you're going to be skiing on. So the more difficult terrain that we're going to look at in regards to flex pattern is chutes and couloirs, steep technical terrain, and kind of groomers. So backing off for just a moment on the stiffness of the ski, let's look at the turn radius. We've blown you out. You're looking at about a GS carve. That's what you specified. Something that's a little bit longer. Typically, that's between 15 meter and 17 meter. That's when you set it on edge. You're not whooping across. You're actually driving a really nice turn, but at high speed, you've got a carving section that skis on edge and it's turning. We build a lot of torsional rigidity as the speeds get higher and the weights get heavier. We want to make sure that ski doesn't twist. If it twists, it washes. If it locks, it loads. And that loading is that really fast speed stability that we're looking for. But once you have that in mind, you've got some technical type of terrain where you're going to want some playfulness, some nimbleness. So once you're on edge, you're locking. But if you take a side cut ski and you drive it out, of course you get super fat and wide at the tip, and that gets knocked around in powder. It's not a fun ski to ski on. That's why we pin the tip in. That's called early taper. We did this in your case for both tip and tail. A small section in the tip and a small section in the tail. So you've got this underfoot GS 15 meter side cut. You can blow that out if you'd like, and then it pins back in. But also in the pinning section, it goes into rockers. So I'm going to show you on the ski here. This is actually early taper. It's a big fat powder ski dedicated, and then it pins back in. But right about where it pins back in, you've got that rocker section. Now the rocker kind of diminishes the section that's in the snow, and it allows you to create that playfulness. And that playfulness is really where you're going to be able to kind of take advantage in regards to steep technical terrain, chutes and couloirs. Instead of a big long ski, you've got more of a nimble ski in those sections that you can pull in a tighter radius. You're not carving those turns in, but you're able to kind of butter and push those skis in and then move them. And then you still have the length without this broad big tip that gets knocked around. You have this length that allows you to really go super fast coming out, blowing out on the chute on the rear end, so you're not getting unstable. Ice. Ice actually has more to do with your tune than anything. You can, we've seen, and we do it all the time, we get super fat skis. Preferably, personally, I don't ski super fat. Mid-fat's really where I'm at. But, and I'm going to explain what that has to do in terms of powder. But in terms of ice, we're looking at a ski that has really good underfoot torsional strength. When you're on ice, it tends to want to twist the ski. Crud, powder, you got some play in the snow. The snow will compress a little bit as you turn, but ice is less forgiving, so you don't want that twisting. So what we do is, not so much on this ski because it's a definite powder ski. You probably can't see, but from here to here, this is an ultralight carbon ski. A little bit of early taper. It's got some tip rocker too. But we reinforce this section for that strength, that torsional twisting strength, which is what gives you a great carving ski on ice. And again, that has a lot to do with the tune. So we can tune flatter, closer to 1 degree, and give you some really good ice kind of integration or just driving in that ice section. Cliffs, typically if you're launching, you're going to pick up a lot of speed on the backside. We talked about that in terms of length, and your length is, let me see which we got. Oops, lost that. We're 1 centimeter shorter than you are. So at this point, we spec the ski shy in length. One of the things you may want to consider is, or actually 2 of the things you may want to consider is, increasing the length of that ski, which is going to give you a little bit less nimbleness, but then you can increase that rock or early taper section as well, kind of reintroduce that nimbleness, but give you some really ultra high speed kind of stability as you come out of a cliff section. Open poles, you're looking at a great ski. You've got enough underfoot width. You're at 104. This is what we call a mid-fat. But really quick, what I went back to, a lot of companies are just saying powder skis or fat skis. That's not necessarily the case. A lot of times, if you've got the benefit of running heli skis and you're just going big mileage, big vertical drops, yeah, you kind of want to stay on top of the snow because you're going to burn. But if you're running shorter sections, you're actually going to want to porpoise. You're going to want to drop into that powder, get the feeling of powder, almost drop to your eyeballs, and then have that ski come back up. And that's the porpoising effect, which has a lot to do with the tip rocker and also the early taper, the nimbleness. And also tapering, the early tapering on the tail kind of reduces the mass in the tail, which tends to drop that tail. And so as you drop into a powder section, the ski is immediately starting to rise, tail's dropping, and you're coming back up. So that makes a great sensation in regards to powder. Of course, you can go from 104, you can go wider if you're in a kind of a lighter snowpack. Where we come from, we're typically in a maritime pack, so we're staying a little bit more buoyant because there's more water in the snow. But if you're in a situation where you have a lot of light snow, you may want to go to 104. You may want to blow that out. But if you like that drop in, pull up, we can go narrower. That gives the ski a lot more nimbleness overall, but a little less buoyancy if you're talking about a super deep penetration snow, which is an ultralight pack. Kind of think that that's a lot of information right there. And having said that, it's just enough to give you a sense, how do you want to start tweaking the ski? If you want to add some length for some high-speed stability, if you want to add some tip rocker for some more, porpoising effect and more nimbleness, so on and so forth. Hope that works out. We're going to give you a form that kind of gives you more information, or gives us more information, and you also, with this form, you have the ability to override any of the suggestions we've made, and certainly ask questions. What would happen if, in fact, I added a little bit more camber, a little bit more rocker, so on and so forth. This is all pretty much what we do. Thanks.